welcome you to the Priscilla R. Tyson Cultural Arts Center for our conversations and coffee on this first day of May 2025. Shall we welcome May? Yeah. And yes, and to have Inga on May Day. I'm Ellen O'Shaughnessy, coordinator of the program, and we welcome you, Inga Smith, faithful one who has attended our conversations and coffee for a number of years. And we were looking at 1984. Wow, that takes us a little while back, does it not? And celebrates this moment. We have shared her amazingly beautiful photography with several of the conversations and coffees in which she has been a guest. And that 1984 was the first time, and we've had several more since, huh? And today we call you to tell us about the stories that photographs tell. You share that your life, speaking of story, as a photographer, began at the age of 10 when your father gave you a little brownie camera for your birthday, and when you went on the first photo expedition of your life, a boat trip out to the Boston Lighthouse with your Girl Scout troop. The thrill of pressing that camera button is when the camera bug bit, and we are so grateful. That trip was very exciting to Inga, and she knew she wanted to do more like it. Now she shares that the travel bug has struck, and neither of these two bugs have ever left her. As a self-taught photographer, Inga can't cite courses she's actually taken or degrees she's earned in the field of photography, but the side benefits of her actual careers, she says, have provided her with the classrooms of the world. Isn't that well said? I love it. Thank you for expressing that for all who love photography, the classrooms of the world. Inga became a teacher in high school English. While she loved her job, she just as much loved the bonus of having summers. To do what? Travel. While she lived in Boston, she was teaching across the border in Connecticut, and the wide open vistas of New Hampshire and Maine became her classes. Climbing around the New Hampshire mountains and shooting pictures of the lovely waterfronts of Maine, it provided her with lots of practice opportunities. Her eyes hardly knew where to look first, and the camera was kept really busy. From unfortunate experiences, she had learned never to take one photo of anything. Switching to teaching in Braintree, Massachusetts, put Inga close to the city of Boston and the Cape, where she spent 3 summers waitressing and taking advantage of all the glories of Cape Cod, all the while training her eye to see what makes a good picture. As she looked back at the pictures taken in the past, she became more and more critical of her work. During the course of these years, closest things Inga said she ever came to was a course of a good fortune in 2 different summers to travel for 2 weeks each time throughout France with a National Geographic photographer whose teaching model was incredible, and she became more professional in her approach. Right after Inga's retirement from teaching, she was offered the opportunity to become an international language consultant with Houghton Mifflin Publishing Company. And for 14 years, Inga traveled the world, always with the camera on board, as she visited places where she says she would never have seen on her own. When she retired from that job, she had 954,000 frequent flyer miles. And she had flown over 1 million miles on United airlines alone and had 30,000 plus camera shots on her computer. Looking back at her photos from previous years, Inga can see what she has learned about what makes a good picture. But there's still plenty more to learn, she says. Those of us who know Inga, we know that the travel bug is still in full swing, and the camera has not been put away. Family gathered with us today, you surely know this, do you not? Evan. Where's Evan's son, Evan? You want to stand up there, son Evan? And son Eric. With your spouses.
I'm not married to both of them, just one.
I think you're married to both of them.
And wait, and your wife couldn't come today.
She's not feeling well.
Oh, okay.
She said
Well,
some people, she's sorry she couldn't be here.
Oh, well, she had been taking care of the 1-year-old great-grandson, huh?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Well, family, how wonderful to have you with us.
Take care.
Oh, yeah. So, let's celebrate mother, grandmother, friend, colleague, artist, Inga Smith. Take it away.
Just want to say, is this on? One comment about coming here since 1984. Actually, I've been thinking about that, and I think I started coming in 82, actually, because 84, I had my first show out here in the studio out here, and where I made my first sale, photography speaking. And here's the picture that I sold that was on sale out there. A doctor who was the editor, apparently, of this bulletin, bought it and made the cover on this. And the reason I know it's 84, because it says so. So that, I think I must be the oldest living person coming to conversation and coffee. Anyway, enough of that.
Celebrate that. Why not? Yeah.
This is the only intellectual thing I'm giving you today. This is a quote I found. I only subscribe to one magazine, and that's Sports Illustrated, for a couple of reasons. One thing is some very, very good writing in it, and secondly, there are some excellent pictures. And they have had a photographer whose name is Heinz Klutmeyer, and he just died this January. You know, heard of him, and he just did all these amazing pictures. So I'm just going to quote this because it fits so much with the topic today. Photography is putting into the public domain visual gems that tell stories, evoke feelings, memorialize events, and sometimes literally reset limits of possibility. And that's what I hope to do for you today. So here's our first picture. And I put on the bottom of each picture where it was taken, just so you know. And so this was from Lhasa, Tibet. I was on a tour with a group called Overseas Adventure Travels. And they take their persons to odd places that you wouldn't get to in a regular tour. And so we went to this orphanage, and I just get a kick out of they left the H out of orphanage and just put this tiny little H there to make it correct. This orphanage, I'd have to just very quickly tell you a little bit about it. It's run by a woman and her son who was 21 when we were there. This was, I think, in 2008. Anyway, a long time. And in Tibet, unfortunately, apparently there's a custom of if a child is deformed or blind or has anything wrong, they put them on a street corner and leave them. And this woman and her son have created this orphanage. They go out every Friday and pick up children who have been left on the street corners. There are some other strange things about Tibet, too, which I won't get into. So we went to this orphanage because it was part of our tour. And when we arrived,
What year was
2008. When we arrived, they had the children lined up and they sang a little song to us, and it was supposed to be English, but it was just a vague touch of English. But they were just clapping and singing, which I thought was so cool when we arrived. So we were asked to sit down, and they telling things to the children. And one of the children kept looking at this man who was in our group. And so when we were done, whatever, we went over and asked, the son spoke English, the mother not. We went over and I said, why are they so interested in looking at, Ken was his name, and she said, well, they've never seen a man with facial hair. When the Asians don't have facial hair. And so they were all talking about it. And then these children wanted to feel his face, the blind children. There were 6 blind children, and they wanted to feel the facial hair. And that was something that was really unusual, of course, for us, and quite exciting for them.
And you were right there to take that photo. That's
Yeah,
so
these are
beautiful.
candid shots, obviously.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
But there were 6 blind children, and they couldn't get close enough to this man to feel his face.
Are these the children that would be picked up and taken?
Yeah, these are every child in that. And they lived in, if you have ever rented a storage thing, what do you call those? Storage unit, yeah. They live in a building that looks like a storage unit. They all have the cement, and they have little bunk beds.
When you say these Asians don't have facial hair, do you mean they don't ever grow it, or they just don't?
No, they don't grow it. It doesn't. It doesn't grow.
They never did have hair.
No,
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't either. But as a rule, I've seen a couple of Asian people with mustache, but if you do ever see them, it's just a tiny little bit of fuzz. But they don't.
Or they're intermingled with some other.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But these children had never felt person's facial hair. Okay, so that's all I want to say about that. This next one is, have any of you ever, do you know what that is? You do. You do, okay. I've traveled in Germany, Czechoslovakia, and Poland, were, of course, countries that had great trouble with the Nazis. And you can walk around in Germany, in Austria, in Poland, Czechoslovakia, and you will see something like this in either the sidewalk or in a wall on a house. In this particular one, I will translate for you. It says, here lived Ludwig Levi, and here wohnte Sophie Levi, husband and wife, lived here. This was on the side of a house in Krakow, I think. Yeah, Krakow. It says he was born in 1870 and she in 1872. The Deportiere, 1942, it says that they were deported, sent to Theresienstadt, which was a center for deciding where the Jews would be sent. Are we going to keep these people? Where are we going? These people are too old. And it was just a terrible thing. It was a horrible, horrible place. And they were sent to Treblinka because they were too old, and they were immorted in 1942 on the 28th of September. And those that immorted does not mean killed, it means murdered. So you can walk around in the Jewish sections of these cities, and I'm sure that some of you who have seen them know how it makes you stop and look. So that's the story beside those. And I took, excuse me, different ones. to show.
And what kind of camera did you have to get this?
Oh gosh, I've had so many different cameras. I don't know. It was a
Oh,
good one.
It's so beautiful the way you have.
But
Oh.
that was right in the side of the house,
Oh.
by the door, so that they had been taken out
Uh-huh.
of their home,
Mm.
shipped to Theresienstadt, which is the name of this center where they decided what was going to happen to you. And then if you were too old or useless or handicapped or too young, too something, then they moved you on to one of the terrible camps, one of which was Treblinka. So,
Well, just from the point of view of photography, as you've picked up the light and the lettering and the background, it's just beautiful. Beautifully
Thank you.
sad, but
Thank you.
beautiful.
okay, next. Marlene, who's here in the pink shirt, she and I were roommates on this trip. We traveled to Mexico for a week with 9 other ladies, all artists, women artists. And the information we received before we left was to bring along some treats for the people we were visiting, because this was a trip to visit art studios. And we went to a good number, didn't we? Every day we traveled, we were there a whole week, and we went to different art studios. And we were told or asked to bring some toothpaste and toothbrushes and little children's books and things, because some of these studios were in the people's homes. And the homes, were something we wanted to acknowledge. And so bring little gifts to leave the people. And so one of the things I brought was toothpaste and toothbrush. So, and these people there were 9 children there. I'm not going to say they were all theirs, but they were intermixed families. So they were, so I asked if I could take a group picture of the children with their toothbrushes. And they were very pleased with them. You wouldn't think so. If we gave a kid a toothbrush, they'd roll their eyes, But other trips I've been on, they've asked. When I went to Cuba a couple of years ago, we were asked to bring toothbrushes, and so on. So I took the picture of them, and then we were given the tour, and the studio was in the home, and one of our travel partners had brought a bag of children's books, and had spread them out on a table. So while we were touring the house, the books were out. And when we got done touring, I went back into the living area, and this is what I saw. By the way, they were in Spanish. There were children all over the place. All of them were reading the books. So that's that story. Marlene says she doesn't remember that, but does that bring a memory back? When you were there, I vouch for you. Okay. A few years ago, I had a friend of mine from Canada was coming to Florida every summer, snowbird thing. And I would go down and stay with her a week, 2 weeks, and we would do stuff in Florida. So one of the times I was down there, you may have met her, because I brought her, some of you may have, because I brought her to a conversation and coffee, Dean, when she was visiting me one time. Anyway, we decided we were going to go do the Everglades boat ride. So we drove over there, and we got there, and the boats were all taken. They'd all gone out. But there was so they said, in an hour, they'll be back. So while we were standing there waiting, this man came along, and he said, I have a boat. I can take you out. And it was boats similar to the ones that the commercials were using. And we said, okay. So we got on his boat, and we weren't very far away from the dock before he started doing wheelies with the boat. Like that. And Marlene.
Before you change that,
And I'm hanging on to Dean while he's
I
doing.
want to go back to the expression on that child's face.
Which one?
Yes, the one looking. Is that child looking at you? What have you done to capture this?
I don't know. I was just shooting anything I could see.
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, it's soul felt. Whether you waited.
I thought maybe he was thinking, you mean I can really have this book? Is that that's the expression,
Oh.
you know? I don't know. That's what he was
Make way,
thinking.
where's Mama? Oh, that's just simply beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Okay, so this is Dean from Prince Edward Island in Canada. And so we're on the boat, and I'm hanging on to her because this guy is doing wheelies with the boat. And so we're kind of screeching a little bit. So he said, okay, I'm going to stop. So we're driving along. He said, now I have to visit a couple of people. I have to make a couple of stops, he said, while we're out here. So I have to go see Homer and I have to see Oscar. And we're looking at each other and saying, where is he going to take us? You know, we're going to see Homer and Oscar. So we're driving along on this boat. Meet Homer. This is Homer. He pulled out, have any of you ever been in the Everglades where you see there's this main area of water, but then there are side departments. Well, he had gone down one of these and we thought, we may never get out of here again, you know. So here's out, and he brings this raccoon food when he comes out in his boat, and he makes clicking noises, and then the raccoon comes out. So we met Homer. And then we said, oh.
close to it.
Yeah, he pulled right up. He could touch it. He handed the thing food,
Oh,
which is strictly against the rules. Feeding the animals, you know, we never do that.
that's a wonderful photo.
Yeah, so I've had about 10 pictures of that creature. And so then I said to Dean, I can imagine what Oscar's going to look like if this is Homer, you know. So we had a very long wait. Here's Oscar. This is our boat. He leans over, and it's our wonderful driver. He's feeding Oscar, or Homer, I forget which was which. He brings him bananas. I don't know alligators like bananas, but he had bananas. So we have 3, and then he would not let us go unless one of us held an alligator. So I said, okay, I'll do it. So that was our trip at the Everglades.
Like it knows it's having its picture taken.
Probably does it with every person he drives around, you know. This is anybody ever been to Dollywood in Sevierville? That statue is there. It's called Chasing the Rainbow Award. And Dolly started this thing with the Teachers of the Year organization to encourage recognition of teachers who sometimes get lost in the shuffle. So the planning of it is that people who've been Teachers of the Year, one of which was me, can nominate people for awards if they have become teachers by overcoming hardships, whether it would be physical, familial, whatever. So those people who were nominated were given this, had to write a thing about chasing the rainbow was the theme of their application, and they had to write what they had to overcome, how they went about it, what it's done for them, and so on and so forth. And then one person's chosen every year. And when the award began, and until even now, I was one of the judges, or judges is the word, but the applications, and we made the decisions. And then in spring, May, sometime June, Dolly Parton would have the winner come, and we as jurors were invited to come and make the presentation. And then we would always get to go to one show that Dolly was doing at Dollywood. So this award brought me very close to Dolly. These are all pictures I've taken of Dolly Parton. And I even got close enough to take a picture of her hand with all her jewelry on it. And there I am with Dolly. And I'm a Chasing Rainbow Award guest, a VIP in Dollywood. How about that? I had to sneak this in. Okay. Oh, this next one, I'm going to tell the story first before I show you the picture. The same dean, on another trip I was down, we went to Miami, and we were just sitting on the curbside having a snack, and all of a sudden I saw some woman by, and I jumped up and I said to Dean, I'll be right back. And this woman was marching by, and she had a tote bag slung over her shoulder, and I started following her because I wanted to get her when she wasn't walking, because I wanted to take a picture of that bag that she had, because I thought it would make a great picture. That's the big picture that was on her bag. She had a cloth bag over her shoulder, and that was the picture on it. I thought, oh, that would make a great card. So I took the picture, and I went back, and it made a great card. I'm going to give that to our wonderful custodian. Yeah. So, but anyway, the reason I'm showing that picture, because then I went back, and Dean said, what were you doing? Where were you going? You know, and I said, well, I wanted to catch that lady when she wasn't walking, and when she got to a traffic light and we had to wait to cross the street, I could get the picture. So I did that, and I went back. But the thing about this picture beyond that brought up a memory I had from 1955, when I was teaching in Connecticut. I think Ellen mentioned that. But I used to take kids into Boston for events. You could put kids in a car there and go. In those days, you could drive kids in your car. And we were participating in a drama contest at the John Hancock building in Boston, a tall building. So for some reason or other, while I was there with them, I had to go down a couple of floors on the elevator for something. I got in the elevator, and there was only one person in there. And I got so struck with this person that I forgot to get off the elevator, went all the way down to the street, and he went out, and I went out after him. And I followed him for almost a block before I realized, what am I doing? It was Rock Hudson. He was gorgeous, and I could tell you right now everything he had on. I remember his shiny penny loafers, you know, and a navy blue blazer and dark gray pants. So I was confined. Why I was following him, I don't know, because in those days you didn't have cameras. It wasn't like I was going to get a picture or anything. Anyway, but I had to this picture reminded me of that event. All that was years back. Yeah. So that's that.
Anyone want to join in on the conversation here? Any thoughts? Questions?
I would probably have followed him too.
I know you would have. I know you would have. Okay.
His movie with Doris Day, Pillow Talk.
Yeah.
That's one of my
He
favorites.
was gorgeous. Let's leave it at that. Okay. Yeah.
What is your favorite topic to photograph?
I'm asked that often. I said I photograph anything that catches my eye. I don't have a favorite topic, honestly. I've never for the longest time ever did anything in black and white, and now quite a few of my pictures are black and white. And I used to never take people on the street or children, and I have a catalog of children's pictures now. Just whatever strikes me, you know. I see the world through a lens.
That sparkle.
Pardon?
Through that sparkle of your eye.
Thank you. Okay, we don't want to just do cats here. We have to do dogs too. Yeah. This was in France somewhere, I don't remember. And we had been in a building looking at things, and I came out because I'd seen all I wanted to see, but some of my traveling partners were still inside. So I came out. This woman was out there, and I thought, what's she doing? You know, is a dog? First of all, I didn't realize it was a dog. I didn't know, I thought she dropped something. And then I saw that she was doing something with the dog, and I thought, what is happening? So I waited, just a little bit, and then I got my answer. She was posing the dog for a picture. And this picture, like a couple of years ago, I always enter the state fair, and I've been in every year except once since 2011. And anyway, huh?
This year?
This past year, yes. 2 years ago, or 3 maybe, didn't think I had any picture that was worthy of submitting. And I thought, oh, I got to try something. So I stuck that picture in, and it was chosen. It's been in the state fair. So that's that dog.
Dogs are very loyal people
Yeah.
to people. And my brother was in World War II, and he was coming home up through a field, and Rover, an old hound dog, went down to meet him. He knew he was coming.
Oh, yeah, they're smart.
They could smell or something.
Yeah. But just looking at that picture, you know the story of that dog. You know, he probably has a closet full of clothing. And but it's a cute picture. It was just one of I have a lot of what I call lucky shots. That's one of them. Okay, now, next one I was going to show you in a minute is one of the trips I did with the National Geographic. Carol de Villiers is her name. She's a Parisian woman that I did those 2 tours with. The one we did was called Behind the Scenes in Paris. And all the pictures were not what you would ordinarily expect to see. So she said to me one day, she said, tomorrow's the day off. You can do what you want all day, but at 11 o'clock tonight, tomorrow night, I'm going to come and knock on your door, and we're going out. I thought, oh, okay. So we went to the Louvre, and we stayed there for several hours. And if it weren't for her doing that, I wouldn't have that picture if she hadn't stirred me up at 11:30 at night. I have, I don't know, 75 pictures maybe of around the Louvre, you know, that building. But that, I think, is one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken. I've got 5 or 6 versions of that one, and pictures of the pyramid, you know, that glass thing, and the whole building, parts of the building. But that is a picture that would not have happened if she hadn't taken me. I would never have gone out at night, you know, like that on my own. So that's the Louvre. Yeah, some people have told me that before, yeah. I'm going to switch on you a little bit. I'm going to pictures that you don't know the story about, but wish you did. And that I'm going to brought the real ones in. This first one here, I was taken in Aix-en-Provence. I was on my way to Cézanne's studio with this tour group. And on the other side, across the street, I just happened to look over, and I saw that. That's a one-shot picture. Because I had to hurry to keep up with the group. I always have to hurry to keep up with the group. Now they have a new thing, by the way, that you can hear the speakers when they're out of sight. They're out of sight, and that's very dangerous for me because I can hear their voices and I have no idea where they are. You know, I just stand there and I say, "Where? Help!" They turn around the corner and I'm hearing them, but I can't see them because they've left me behind, or I've left myself behind. But anyway, this picture is just 4 men who I'm guessing meet every day, every week, whatever, guessing at what they talk about. And then it occurred to me after I had looked at the picture many times, I wonder if those 2 chairs ever had people in them, or if, you know, people have died and they're not there anymore, or whatever. So that's not knowing the story, but it's a picture that makes you think, I wonder if, or I wonder what, you know, they were doing. I have to brag a little bit. I entered this in the Ohio State International Photo Competition for alumni, faculty, and not graduate students, I think it was. And I got first prize. And $100.
Wow.
Yeah. So that, and the second one over here, this picture I took with Carol de Villiers when we were in Paris, or in south of France, the second trip we were down in the mountains. And we were just walking along, and I looked over my shoulder, and there was this child inside a door. And I got just the one picture. And then when we stopped for lunch later on, and I showed it to her on the camera, and she said, "Why didn't I see that?" I said, "I didn't know." I said, "I just happened to see it." Well, I was walking behind her, and I have no idea, and that was in the State Fair last year, what that was all about. You could create all kinds of stories about that, especially in these days. So it's an interesting picture, I think. But I can't tell you the story because I don't know what it is. And then down here, this is in Beijing, China. And it's just this half shot of the father and the little girl clutching a stuffed animal. And they're waiting for the bus, I think, because there were other people there waiting. And I said, she just has such a pensive look on her face, the child. And the father with his arms folded like that. So just try to think what do you think when you see that picture? What do you think is going on?
She's really contemplating on what's going on, like is she waiting for the school bus or to go to school or?
Waiting to cross the street.
Yeah, they were waiting for something, yeah.
Well, speaking of stories that photos share, let's hear from some of your family about what they experience from you as photographer or photos that you have experienced.
Hello, I'm the oldest son, Eric, and I've had the opportunity to probably see all 30,000 of her photographs. I have gained from her the joy of traveling. And,
He does have the bug. Yeah.
And photography myself. I think I'm a fairly good photographer also. So she shared that with us.
So you talked about you often get left behind. So I'm sorry, I'm Pam, I'm daughter-in-law. Traveling with Inga and Eric together, you always have to stand and wait while they are waiting for the perfect shot. So I've experienced that a lot. Eric inherited that from you. But the other thing I would say is that having a photographer for a mother-in-law, you're never at a loss for art to hang in your house. So we have quite a few pieces hanging around our house. My favorite, Inga knows that I love daisies. They're my favorite flower. And she gave me a beautiful picture of daisies that's always been hanging in my house. So, yeah.
Hello, my name is Evan. I'm her youngest son. And, excuse me, I probably didn't really do too much with any photography until I retired a few years ago. And then my wife and I kind of took up birding a little bit. So what we enjoy doing is we do a lot of day trips through around the state, and we've figured out where a variety of eagles' nests are. So we travel around and been pretty fortunate at getting some pretty nice eagle shots. That seems to be my favorite thing to do, of taking pictures. And my wife, she'll take a picture of anything. So she's kind of like my cats, you name it. She's like my mom. My wife and I, we go for a lot of walks. We put on a lot of miles. And I'm always having to wait for her because she sees a spider web in a tree, and she sees a leaf that's laying the wrong way, or, you name it. It's unbelievable. So I know she didn't inherit that from my mom, but I know that she does have a keen eye for photography as well. So it's nice that we can all kind of enjoy that in a variety of different ways.
Well, I would just add to that by saying that because you're such a good photographer, we always try to take good pictures, and it's very neat when you say, "Oh, that's a really good picture that you took." So, yeah.
Yeah, I have to say my other daughter-in-law's name is Linda, and she has the eye. She has the eye. She's taking some beautiful pictures. I don't think she realizes how good they are. So she's the carrier on of the tradition, I guess. I don't know, but she is. I'm sorry she's not here, but she's a very good photographer.
What makes a picture great?
Good question.
Well, I think number one, it has to mean something. Either you like it because it's pretty or because it tells you something. It might be a map, and so it gives you information. It's just got to have some way to connect with the viewer, I think. And it will be a different way for everybody. You know, you just take, for example, that middle picture. I don't think there's probably two people in here who think the exact same thing about it. But it's, yes.
On the black and white, do you like doing black and white and bringing out the, like the one that you have back there? It just seems like if it was in color, it would not be the same.
You're exactly right. It's some pictures need to be black and white. Same with the child there. That color, that picture wouldn't have the same effect. It's the darkness of the picture that gives the mood.
When did you switch to digital?
That's been quite a while. It was right after I came back from Greece, and I went into the McAllisters that used to be down on Lane Avenue, and the man who was the manager of it was the husband of a friend of mine at that time. So I was in there a lot, and I went in after that trip, and I was talking to him, and he said, I have a camera I want to show you. He dragged this camera out, and I looked at it, and I thought, what am I supposed to do with it, And I said, where's the turning? No, so he said, take it home for the weekend and use it. And I had all Nikon stuff at that point. Took it home and tried, finally felt comfortable with it. Went back on Monday morning with all my Nikon stuff in the bag and traded it in for that camera. And so I'd have to look up when I was in Greece the last time.
How do you think that changed how you?
It was so much simpler. It was more, I don't know, it's just like, maybe I could stop
Instant results. You don't have to wait for your film to be developed.
Right.
You can take as many pictures as you want.
I know one time when I was in Washington, D.C., we went, and, the picture of the raising the flag at Iwo Jima. I think that's just a spectacular piece of work. I shot a whole roll of film just on every angle on that one statue. And that occurred to me when I was working with that camera. I could have taken one shot, and if it suited me, that would have been enough. But I didn't say wasted, but I took up a whole roll of film on that one statue, which you don't have to do anymore. Yeah. And you can tell, and I used to do weddings, and I used to have nightmares till the prince came back, because I could envision myself having to go up to knock on a door and say, oh, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your pictures didn't come out the way you wanted them, with the digital.
Bad ones right away.
Right, absolutely. And you need to do it again or lift somebody out or got half their head or something. So yeah, I like the digital. Yeah. So got a few more pictures to show you. There's that one that's over there. This picture is another one of my lucky shots. I was out in the Azores Islands, visiting a friend, somebody who I met in my international travel days. And she was a principal at a school, so she was gone all day, so she gave me her car to drive around. And I was just driving around the center square in this town, and I saw these two men sitting there. So I drove back and drove around again just to prepare myself, and I just got 2 shots of them. And I just think this picture, this was in the State Fair too, what they're talking about, and what their situation is. You look at their clothing, and their ages. And what do you think? What do you think they're talking about?
Chicks.
I didn't say what are you thinking about. I said what are they thinking about?
Retirement.
Yeah, but you see, it could be anything. He could be saying his feet hurt, or did you hear that so and so, but
Complaining about old women.
something. But I think it's a nice picture. I like that one. Yeah.
It's a work of art with the bench and the tree and the space.
I took this in Crete. There was a little band of children on a porch. In Crete.
He looks like he'd rather be playing outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He either that or he's getting mad about something and he's taking it out on you.
Drums.
Yeah. There weren't any drums in this group, but I have about 6 or 7 pictures of him too. One of them, he's slouched down in his chair with his feet out in front. You could say, "Oh, get me out of here," kind of look on it. This was in the Chicago Art Museum, and this man was sitting on the floor looking at this piece of art. And I said, if I was sitting there, I'd be thinking, what the heck is that? Supposed to be. And so I went over to him and I said, "You enjoying that?" And he said, "I don't know." And this I took in Hawaii. I was out walking, and this little girl was sitting on a wooden stairs, and there was no adult around anywhere. And I said, "Could I take your picture?" And she didn't say anything, so I just got my camera up, and just when I hit the button, she pulled the dog up in front of her face.
The expression in her eyes that you got that. It's wonderful.
I was hoping her parents wouldn't come out and yell at me or anything. This was right out here at one of the summer concerts. The Valley Met always comes, in the spring, and they do a performance down here. Okay. And I was sitting near the front, and this little kid wove his way through. People were sitting on the grass and big crowd. And he got up there in front of the dancers, and he just stayed there the whole time they were performing. And I kept thinking, is he trying to figure out what they're doing, or is that something he's interested in, or something he would like to do? I didn't know. There were all kinds of possibilities, But he just stood there, and he stared and stared in his Jordan shirt.
Gentleman on the far left, the way you caught him, the expression on his face, the wrinkles in his face, the whole thing captures me just looking at him, the way you caught it, just that right moment.
To me, he looks like somebody who has seen a hard life. That was my first thing. And the other man is intently listening to him. Yeah. There's an art gallery on Indianola Avenue, and I can't think of the man's name. Anybody know who I'm talking about? He it's been 2 years now, an exhibit, and I entered that picture, and it was artists. He was inviting poets to come and choose a picture and write a poem about it. And I have the poem at home, a big long thing that the person wrote about, and it was so different from anything I had ever thought about. And I thought, I've looked at that picture how many 100 times, never once thought what he expressed in that poem. So that was very interesting.
Been over there, and that looks just so typical of Provence, that whole area. You captured it just beautifully.
I looked it up in the bar, the bar that PTT is going strong, still there. Yeah.
Do you know what year that was?
2010.
It almost looked like the Depression era, the men getting together and just contemplating what they're going to do.
Or maybe they're veterans. Maybe they're war veterans that meet together. So they just don't know what it is.
Well, in the spirit of the sharing what photography has meant to you, family, Anybody else want to get in on the conversation about what photos have meant to you? Yes, do you want to take the microphone here and hear you?
My sister worked for the Dispatch, and they had like a picnic, and everyone got a camera and got to take a shot. And she took her husband's picture. He had his umbrella and was pretending like it was a gun, and he was shooting a goose. And she won first prize and a camera.
That's interesting because you know the story. I tell them that we had three stooges repairing a gutter on the outside of our house. I called them Three Stooges. They started a fire in our house, and we were out for a year. But what did I do? As they kept saying, do you have a hose? And I was working at my computer in the kitchen, and I went out, and there were flames going up the stairway of the house. Of course, I called 911. But what did I do then? I got a whole box of pictures because my husband's mother and father were in a fire in Santa Barbara in California, and Mary never thought anything was going to happen as the fire was coming. So she just got a roast out and took it to her other brother, and they lost everything. And so she taught me, get those photos, because that is a wonderful form of life.
Replaceable. You know, there's no
Irreplaceable.
way any one of these pictures could be replaced.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
Have you been to St. Augustine, Florida? Yes.
Yes,
I have a picture that my art teacher in Elston, Ohio did of the oldest house in St. Augustine.
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
And my sister had it framed and museum quality glass on it. It's really nice.
You'd grab that.
Yeah, when you take a photo, it's like you're taking a photo of time. You know, if you look back and it's that is you can go back in time. So think if we couldn't take photos, we couldn't see what happened back in time.
Exactly. One time I was standing by my picture at the state fair, and a woman said, is that your picture? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, how long did it take you to do that? And I said, I don't know, maybe a fraction of a second. She said, what do you mean? I said, it's a photograph. It's not a painting. It's a photograph. She's, you know. Right, yeah, I'm going to say at least 20, 50.
Repeat that. However,
Mary said that it took 20, all the years it took to get to take that picture wasn't a second, you know, it was, but, yeah.
News photographer for almost 60 years. I worked for if you remember, the Citizen Journal. And then I went to Florida and Miami and Fort Myers. Oh. Well, I'm learning this digital crap and I hate it. Put me in a dark room and I know how to do things, and I don't do computers well, but I'm learning. I've got a lot invested in it, but I've kept all my Nikons and my lenses, and now there's a Nikon camera that will use all those lenses, so I can't wait to learn how to do this stuff. But, you know, I'm in the process of moving to Toledo, God help me, but then I'm going to do some traveling because I told Inga, I want to be you because all these trips she takes, I'm going, why am I still in Columbus? My husband died 5 years ago, and I just drug my feet and didn't do anything. But now I feel like I'm reborn, and I'm 80. So, you know, one day at a time is all we can do. I got to get like Inga. She walks so much. She does all this stuff. I'm going, boy, am I a slacker.
Going to be 93 in like 2 weeks.
and you have said it well. We thank Inga. She is such a gift to us. And in storytelling and photography, yes, but also among us, just being so present. We should take a picture of ourselves with Inga.
Oh, yeah.
Who has a camera? Oh, come on. Oh, everybody, come on up here. All right.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yes.
Evan's in the picture.